Welcome to the evening's opening of our new exhibit, Let's Play. We are delighted to have you here this evening. I may be a little biased, but Let's Play is a really fun, inviting exhibit. Early on, we decided that an exhibition featuring kids play needed to be more than just showing toys of the museum's collection or a treaty on the topic of play. That could be pretty boring. And so we wanted whimsy and a childlike view. So early in the research, we focused on children whose images and items were actually in our museum collection. These children's stories inspired the goal of this exhibit. Through the power of play, kids will always find a way to explore and have fun. To give a bit more on the research of the topic, I'm going to hand the mic over to Jennifer Tolley, our Curator of Research and Collections.
Well, I'm very, very excited for you all to be here tonight. As I dug into the research, I was able to dig into and investigate through genealogy resources, through newspapers, and also connecting with some of the artifact donors. The children that are featured in this exhibit, we were able to connect with some of their children, their grandchildren, and we have one of the children here with us tonight as well. So we were able to get photographs of these children, but we didn't have them necessarily, didn't necessarily have the photographs of them playing with their objects. And you'll hear about that process here in just a little bit as how we brought these children to life throughout this exhibit. But when you go in tonight, you're going to be able to see each of these children in a historic context. You're going to see their objects that they played with, how they engaged with those, and I also see them in more of a storybook kind of feel, and it's really bringing them to life. So I really hope that you guys enjoy it. I know I really enjoy the research behind it. So very good. Oh, and I want to thank Marilyn Holgerson for being here tonight. She is one of the children who is featured in the exhibit. And she's been an artifact donor for many years, and years ago she clipped out, she always has great ideas, she clipped out an article about board games and the history of board games, and thought that would be a great exhibit idea. This was probably a decade ago that she brought this to me. We were able to incorporate those board games and the love of board games through the artifacts that she's donated, and you're going to be able to see that here tonight as well. So.
And now, making a few remarks on how we took that research and made it into a more developed storyline, is Nona Miller, our Curator of Education.
This is a participatory talk. I want to know, and I want to see hands, how many of you have gone to a movie in the last week or had a favorite show you just had to see on TV? I'm going to see, yeah, this is participatory. I want to see some hands. All right, awesome. Well, it is my belief, and I've said this 1,000 times since I've worked here, I don't care what movie you take. If you take the plot of that movie, you can outdo it in history. Maybe not the special effects, maybe not the aliens coming out or whatever might be happening, but you can outdo the plot in history. And we watch movies because we like the story. We love the stories of them, and history oftentimes is storytelling. It is faithfully, truthfully, accurately, compassionately, fairly telling stories. And sometimes those stories have to do with generals and kings and, the people we might consider important. Sometimes the story has to do with kids living their lives, and they are just as much a part of history. And their story is just as vital and as vibrant, and I think it's just as enjoyable to see how they went through history. And many things about this exhibit excited me. I've been telling a few people I worry that I'm overhyping it. You know how somebody does that to a movie? Oh, it's the best thing in the world, then you go see it. Well, then I thought, I'm not overhyping it. This is an awesome exhibit. Doing the interactives was very exciting. And the team that worked together, I could just hear us hum. It was one of those times where everybody was kind of in their sweet spot, if that makes sense. And I was especially overjoyed to find that some of the sensibilities I use in my personal writing might find a home in this exhibit and be a benefit. And it was a joy to me to see that it could be a service for that. And so when you go in there and you see the awesome design that Josh did and the incredible artifacts we have and how well they're taken care of and the amazing research, I love it when a team it hums. Everything worked. Now, don't tell my boss, but even though there were deadlines and it was hard at times, and I get a little nervous about deadlines, I'm not real good at it, it was fun. I mean, it was one of those things where I couldn't wait to get back into it. I wanted to see what else we were coming up with. I wanted to see what else was discovered about some of these kids. So this is a really fun exhibit, and I hope you enjoy being in it as much as we enjoyed creating it. Thank you very much. I'm gonna get us to that.
Speaking of team, we have other team members here who didn't want to speak. Josh is going to let the exhibit speak for him, but Josh Morris is the designer of the exhibit. Rosa de la Cruz always gives us good ideas and keeps us thinking of the visitor and what it is the visitor is going to get out of it. Eldon Yekel, our registrar, is the one who got all the items ready to go on exhibit. And I think Carol and Judy, Carol White, and, that's why I can't see, yeah. Carol White and Judy Koznicka are the ones that get to watch visitors the most go in and have fun with this exhibit. Now, as we were working on the exhibit, we thought, well, if we're doing whimsy, how can we portray that feeling to the visitor? How are we going to do that? Well, we decided illustrations was maybe how we should do it. So doing playful images on historic photographs and historic items of the real children that Jennifer talked about earlier was what we needed to have. So that's where some custom paintings came in. They took that static portrait idea that we had of some of the children and conveyed energy and joy. The illustrations help spark that imagination that's going on. And that leads me to our most important speaker, I think, tonight, because we don't always have a guest artist with us. But please welcome Salina native John Keeling.
And I don't know any artist that's comfortable talking without something to hold or show. So I brought my box of goodies here. Not just show and tell, but show and tell to help you see a little bit behind the scenes, as it were. A couple of things I've got to acknowledge, though, before I get into what I was going to share. And I think Jennifer said about the genealogy, and that was very neat. It was near and dear to me. Some of you in the audience I know knew my mother, Audrey Keeling, who was very much involved with the genealogy library, which used to be upstairs. I don't know if it still is or not, but so mom walked those halls a lot of her almost 92 years, but she's been gone a couple years now. But my only regret about all this today is that she can't be here, because she would have just, look at Brad knows her, she would have just lapped this up. But she's here through me and everything I do, frankly. But so what a joy, that was another word I heard, what a joy this project was from the get-go. I was thrilled to get the call for artists for submissions. I remember Colin and I were out at the cabin in Wyoming late last summer, and I was reading it in the parking lot, I think, of the supermarket there in Laramie. You have to plan ahead when you have a kind of isolated cabin. So we were stocking up for the week's groceries, and I read it, and I'm like, wow, this is going on at the Smoky Hill Museum, and they want an illustrator, and they want somebody that can capture a likeness, and yet the joy of play. And I thought, this is so me. This is mine to do, you know? So happily, they agreed. So it really was a joy. The team was the last thing I want to dovetail on. The team, although I hadn't met anybody in person until today, the teamwork was truly exemplary. As far as for an illustrator, I work with a lot of different clients, and this one was far and above the most joyful. There were so many good things. I mean, I grew up here, and so knowing it was a piece of or I was a piece of the collective history as well. But so really, kudos. Josh was my main contact, and I couldn't ask for a better partner on that. And I love to do the illustrations. I love the research and looking into them, and seeing it now. I'm like a kid in the candy shop, so hype it up. I guess, hype it up. So with that, I thought you might want to see what I do more directly, but more importantly, how this team took what I do, I would call them the modest watercolor illustrations, transformed them through enlargement and their vision, and made the display that you're about to open here. So this little guy was one of my favorites. Could almost be Harrison there a year or so ago. So that was, oh, and the other thing was, for an illustrator, the best thing you can give us is clear direction from the get-go. Not a direction and then, you know, go away, so do some sketches, and then, oh, well, we thought maybe we'd go this way or whatever. I promise not to air all that dirty laundry of the business, but this did not happen with this group. They were clear, the vision was there, and I just was so glad to be a part of bringing their vision to life. So this little guy was fun. Benny Hill, I had a lot of fun about the name before I even saw Benny, because my generation knows a different Benny Hill. But so I got to know the true Benny Hill and all of his activities. It was a Benny Hill illustration that was what got me the gig in the first place. So it was not this one. As I often do, I did several iterations of many of the drawings, but he was near and dear, and you'll see what a nice way they put a trio of Benny's activities together in the display. Okay, talk about the research. I did not know what Hunt the Thimble was for the life of me. I knew what a thimble was, but I did not know about the game. So I did, you know, thank God for Google. Illustrator's best gift of the last couple decades, and I found information on what the game was, and I found close-ups of thimbles. I happened to get lucky, I guess, and it looks similar to the thimble that's on display. So I learned a lot too, and I like to think of myself as a lifelong learner, and so that was another part of this project that was so satisfying. This one's taking on even more significance because I think I get to meet Marilyn today. So I've not met her yet, but this was, and remember, I didn't meet her, but I had some photos, but not in this situation. So that was the challenge for the illustrator on a project like this, is to take kind of still photos of people not doing the activities, as somebody else already said, and then finding enough about the activity. And I remember a few good games of what we call Chinese checkers. I don't know if there's another name for it or not, but so I look forward to making that connection. I think the last thing I'll say on this was, as far as what I could bring to the vision that was so well thought out here was, and I had my own watercolor styling, but it's like, well, I do a lot of different stylings, and what would be right for this and about the kids and the play. And so I went back to the kind of the early readers that I grew up with, which was See Dick Run, you know, Jane and Sally Have a Dog, and blah, blah, blah. So this was my research I pulled. I don't know if I ever shared this, Josh, with you guys, but this is what fueled my my work, was 3 different covers I got at a local bookstore of that nostalgic illustration. So that helped me craft a vision for each of the illustrations so there'd be a cohesiveness and yet not inappropriate for the nostalgic story. So that was fun. I have more pictures. I always have more pictures. And I could go on all night, as those of you that know me, but I won't. Just a big thank you again to everybody. It's so exciting. It was such a great collaboration.
Thank you, John. I have a little announcement. Judy Goes, can you mention this? This April 30th, from 1 to 4, you can come down and celebrate Mother's Day with handcrafted jewelry. There's going to be 2 jewelry makers, Jerry Drummond and Sandy Clanton of Wheat State Emporium out of Minneapolis, Kansas, are going to be here to meet and greet people as they come. And also going to feature Sandra Frostberg, World Paper Jewelry, she's here in Salina, and Nancy Obermeyer, who does gourd jewelry out of Topeka, as well as any of the manufactured jewelry. All of that is going to be 15% off that day. So plan that. Women, put little seeds of thought in your husband's ear that you want some jewelry for Mother's Day. And before we go to see the exhibit, I would be remiss if I did not thank our sponsors, which are the Earl Bain Foundation, the Salina Regional Health Foundation, and Weimer Family Charitable Foundation. So it's time to go play.